Evidence is a California rapper hailing from Venice, and he's part of the Rhyme Sayers label under Atmosphere's label. And
Usually an album, or usually a label that we enjoy.
yeah, most of the majority, more than not, I would say. I think for some projects, there's a lot of Rhyme Sayer projects that I listen to that are just overall mediocre, but then you do get the moments that are like really enjoyable. You do get like the Brother Ali's or the Dem Atlases
Or the
or
ASAP Rocks.
or the ASAP Rocks. Can't even forget the ASAP Rocks. Or like even I think Doom has some stuff out on Rhyme
Yeah,
Slayer.
Doom's got some Rhyme Sayer stuff.
And then is there anyone else I'm forgetting? Is there any? I know you have the notes up. No, there's no one.
Felt.
That's it. Yeah.
The Uncluded.
I don't think we're forgetting anyone. But Evidence dropped this new record. And I was kind of interested going into it because last year around this time he dropped the track Throw It All Away, which is a track I really enjoyed. I didn't think it really... I thought it was a moody track, but it wasn't super emotional. It didn't really go too much into his life and why he wants to throw it all away. But I thought overall his flow was really nice. I thought it was a well-constructed track. I like the hook. I like the line, Young Michael... Oh, no, let me have it. It's, where is it? Hands up like a stick up, Killer Mike running Jules. Like, that's such a clever line because Evidence' real name is Michael, so he's making reference to Running Jules.
Michael Evidence.
Yeah, Michael Evidence, that's his name. But I think on this album, we get a lot of moments like Throw It All Away, but there's not much more to it than that. I think this is a personal project, but at the end of the day, besides for the final track is a complete exclusion to it.
Yeah.
You don't know much about Evidence. And I would hate to say this, but some of his features are way more enjoyable than him on this project. Slug, John Wayne, Rhapsody, who surprisingly is on this project. Like,
I'm honestly surprised that any of these people, besides, well, okay,
Slug
I'm not
makes
surprised.
sense.
Yeah, Slug should be there, but I'm honestly surprised like anybody else is on the album at all.
yeah, it's like super strange that they all are together on this project. Like, I never thought in a million years John Wayne and Rhapsody would be on like the same project.
No, absolutely not.
And I'm kind of confused how he got everyone together, but except for Slug. Again, I can't Slug, but like this is overall it's how I feel about like artists like Atmosphere and Grimes, who not Grimes, artists like Atmosphere and how they've been dropping projects recently or the last couple projects. I think it's okay overall. There's nothing harmful on this. It's an hour, should be more like a half hour at most. Half hour, like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And the features are good. Tracks are well versed. There's good production. There's production from Alchemist, Sam I Am. Evidence does some production on it. There's nothing more to it than that. Like, I don't think this is a personal project that doesn't have a lot of depth to it. You don't know much about Evidence besides the final track where he does go into his personal life, and it makes it one of the most interesting tracks on the project. But it's well organized, it's well constructed. There are some more more exciting moments to this project. Moments like Throw It All Away, Jim Dean,
Jimmy Dean breakfast sandwiches.
Yeah, Jimmy Dean breakfast sandwiches. That's my favorite.
I love those. Things.
Love Is a Funny Thing, and
where the Alchemist raps.
Yeah,
which
like,
I forget
always
that he
forget
does that
Yeah,
all the time.
I always forget that. And By My Side Too, which is the closing track, I think is really good. But other than that, whether or not it's pretty good. But like even the better moments don't really have much to say. It's just mediocre overall, but it is okay. Like, this is a well organized project, but other than that, it doesn't have much depth or like narrative flow. I think there's a lot of relating elements. Like, there's constant reference to these Mackie speakers that he keeps on forgetting or picking up or not picking up, or this the repair company keeps on calling him. It's like, we got these Mackie speakers. We want to throw them away if you
Don't come get
don't
them.
come get them.
Pretty much.
These voicemails play through the entire album. I think it's some nice unity.
Hey, it's your old buddy Shake.
Not
Heard
that
you were doing a little project.
But I don't think there's that much to this project. And I think that's what really makes it suffer, is I listened to this and I didn't learn anything about Evidence, except for at the end, which I'm going to make reference to now, By My Side 2, which makes reference to his girlfriend having their first son, and then ending up discovering while breastfeeding him that she has a lump and she had like stage 2 cancer. I think that's what it was.
I think so.
But it was a really emotional track, and he's really grateful for his son's existence, because without his son, she would have eventually never found out about it and probably eventually died. So since that, they got to recover in a sense. I think that's a really beautiful moment, but it's one of the shortest moments on the entire album.
Yeah.
And it's at the end, and there's nothing more to that. That's the only like emotional moment I learned about Evidence through this project. It's a project that really needed to be personal, and it wasn't. I learned more about, I would say the same thing I learned about Evidence on this project, I learned about John Wayne from his one verse. Talking about taking his mother's computer and bootlegging FL Studio on it to become famous. Just like John Wayne's verse on, what track is it? I always forget.
To Make a Long Story Longer.
To Make a Long Story Longer, which has a pretty interesting hook to it.
Yeah.
But I think I learned the same amount of John Wayne than I do Evidence, and John Wayne's only on a track. I don't learn anything about
He has
Evidence.
one single verse. This is Evidence's entire album. I just sense there was a huge lack of feeling or relaying that feeling on this project, because I know Evidence has personal stories. I know he has a lot to say. I know he has feelings that he feels and things that he wants to tell about, but I almost feel like he has just trouble relaying that to his audience and relaying that in his songwriting, or I guess how he wants to go about telling the stories.
Yeah.
He hyped this thing up like it was going to be his magnum opus, but that feeling and emotion put into the album seemed really toned down, or even when it showed up, in some sense, with the exception being By My Side 2,
Yeah.
just felt really synthesized, or I guess false emotions being created here. Like, I know Evidence can do better than this, and maybe it's a struggle telling his story, because sometimes like that kind of thing is hard to relay in a song, especially most notably in the hip hop community. That's something that's, I think, sometimes to get difficult to get across to your audience. But I know that he can tell beautiful stories, like in By My Side 2. That is such an amazing track with a lot of depth and a lot of really cool storytelling elements to it, and it's really a shame that it doesn't appear till the very last track, and it is one of the shorter tracks on here.
And it's the only moment of its kind.
Right. That's not to say it's the only bad track, though. Of course, we talked about To Make a Long Story Longer with John Wayne's verse. I thought that was a really cool track. Cool production from Sam I Am on there. And one of my favorites you didn't mention, Powder Cocaine.
Oh yeah, no, I forgot about that.
I really like Powder Cocaine, the song. And
I like cocaine.
It had some.
I'm just gonna splice that out. I like cocaine.
The Alchemist had some really cool production work here. That sample used in the background reminds me a lot of Kelly Chris's Popeye, which was one of my favorite tracks from last year.
I don't think it's as notable.
No,
as
definitely not
version,
as notable,
like,
but it's of the same
vibe.
Yeah, of the same vibe for sure.
And I like
think
that line.
Slug's feature was pretty cool.
I like the line how he starts it off. He's like something. Cocaine is a hell of a drug, and then he like like I forget the actual line. No, I actually wrote it down somewhere, didn't I? No, I didn't. Oh, I'll look it up in a second. But yeah, it's like just such great opening line with him making reference to the Dave Chappelle skit of him and I forget who, but no, Rick James. That's who it is. Rick James, the Rick James sketch where he's like, cocaine is a hell of a drug, and making reference to that. It's been done before, but like I think his wordplay on it is really, it's going back to like a new way to do something.
It's interesting at a time where that line has been done time and time again.
Yeah. at the worst, this album's just kind of meh. It's not annoying at its worst. I'm not annoyed by this project.
No.
I think it's a little longer than it should be. It should be about like it should be 15 minutes less or half an hour less. It does not need to be an hour, especially because I don't think there's a lot worth to be had here for an entire album. There's not a lot to be said here for an entire album. I think some tracks should have been cut out. I think Evidence is a veteran at this point, but he has his flows down, but he does not have a narrative sense down, and that's something he needs to prove on. I think even layout wise, I think this album's pretty good. Just the narrative is his narrative songwriting is his biggest problem on this. Moments like Whether or Not, which show is reference to why this is this is supposedly the third album in like a Weatherman trilogy, as he's supposedly called it.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be the closing, but I think it doesn't. Even if I haven't listened to the two previous projects, but like as a closer, it's not that spectacular. I think he would go like balls to the wall for a closing album, but he really didn't. And yeah, it's kind of a letdown at times, but it's not annoying. There's nothing wrong. His wordplay is good. His pacing, his flow is good. It's just his narrative songwriting's weak. And I think his features are good. I think John Wayne, Slug, Rhapsody, Styles P, who comes through with one of the funniest lines on Love Is a Funny Thing. I just want a gangster paradise like I'm Coolio. That's just such a dumb line, but I love it. But like all the features are good. Production's all good. Again, Sam I Am, The Alchemist, Evidence produces a decent amount of the tracks on this. Everything flows together well. It seems like Evidence project, but like you just don't know a lot about him, and that's where it really suffers. Yeah, I don't have anything else to say besides that. I think it's well crafted, but not well narratively executed, and that's his biggest flaw.
That's yeah, I think that's a pretty good thing to bring up. Also, something I think that needs to be brought up is, like you said, Evidence is a veteran in the industry. And something I didn't really think of until now. He was a member of Dilated Peoples with DJ Babu and Raka, who's also on this album as a feature. But you know, rapping in a collective is different than rapping solo work, and it's a lot of times even more difficult to get your story across in a collective. Dilated Peoples released 6 albums before, I guess, branching off into solo work. And not to say that they still don't work together, of course, but I can see, I guess, where that lack of storytelling foundation would come from. Rapping in a collective can do that. That's not to say it can't be done, because it definitely can. Wu-Tang Clan had some stories.
Wu-Tang Clan.
Saturation.
Yeah, Brockhampton.
I'm thinking of Stains right now from Saturation 3.
Yeah.
Told stories all around from all the members, you know. It can be done well, but I can definitely see where that lack of foundation is. I think as Evidence releases more and more solo projects, he will start to come into his own, because we see that he can do it. He can definitely tell stories. It's just a matter of working on that a little more, building, making up for that lost time, I think.
How old is Evidence? Look that up.
41.
41?
Yep.
He's got time. He can Johnny Cash it.
Oh yeah, yeah, he's definitely got time.
Yeah, like that's what I like about like music nowadays. Like people like can release music at like
Andre 3000.
Yeah, like in 80s.
He's like 95.
He can be like 95 and drop his final album if he wanted to, but like
you mean his
I think
debut album?
I think it's like it gives more, because of like modern medicine and the internet and just so many other, and like home recording studios and stuff like that. There's just so many elements now. People can release music in the late 90s and they can mature. They have a longer time to mature. Like we think, like this is completely stupid, but I want to hear Lil Pump's music when he's like 60.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, and we're also like 70. But like
I'm just like curious to see what he
just like stupid stuff like that, and like Evidence has like a ton of time to grow. Like he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, for sure.
So like I think this is a minor bump, but it's not gonna hurt him. I don't think it's a good. Well, it's a well crafted project, but it needed a lot more than we're given. It needed to pull back a little bit less, especially on the length. But there's some good moments on this, and I'd be lying if I say you shouldn't check it out. There's definitely things I would recommend. Throw It Away, first of all, definitely it's a great single.
There's a lot of good stuff on this album. It's really just how much I guess you put emphasis on storytelling in your own hip hop tastes. I would have to say, but definitely, I would definitely check it out because there's worth in it still.
I don't know what to give this as a review. I'm feeling like overall 6.5. I think that's decent.
Yeah, I'd say 6.5 too.
I think there's narratively is his biggest complaint. Production's good. Flow is good. He's like is able to keep up with people like Rhapsody and John Wayne, but it's just narratively he's just not able to match that. And that's it. That's all I gotta say. I think Evans has some things to improve on, but like I don't think it's that hard. I think he just needs to reflect. And how long? When was his last solo project? Like 5 years ago.
Weatherman LP was 2007. Cats and Dogs was 2011, and then he took a break and did an album with The Alchemist in 2014.
Yeah, and I think they're doing another one of that. I heard something, or maybe it was a bonus track they recently released or something like that.
They're still working together for sure.
But like he can take like another 5 years and probably improve on this. Like it's definitely possible, and I'm excited to see where he goes with this next or anything next. I know he released like a joint project with our buddy, we interviewed him. He's not really our buddy, but a cookbook a couple years ago, and that was amusing. There's moments I thought were really fun to that. But,
yeah, for sure.
Cookbook's a nice guy. He's a really nice guy. We interviewed him.
I want more from Cookbook.
I don't know. I don't know if I want more from Cookbook. He's surely like a hella entertaining guy.